It's Lady Raven, the Wild Witch, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about crystals. There's many different ways to work with crystals, and a lot of times we get different people that come in and they have questions, and most of the time they come in with a book trying to find what is the meaning of the crystal in a book. What does this crystal do for me, and what does that crystal do for me? So there's many different ways to do it, and so I just wanted to give you some ideas of some of the things that you can do with them, whether you already know a lot about crystals. Hopefully this will give you some new ways to work with it, or whether you're just kind of learning, it'll get you started. First of all, there are many different kinds of crystals, and some of them are beautiful and gorgeous, and some of them obviously are not as pretty. But it doesn't mean just because it's a crystal that's not as pretty as something else that there is any less value to this crystal. So for example, crystals and stones that you find in your property. You can go into your backyard and just pull something out of the earth, clean it up, and voila, you have a crystal at home that you can use. Those crystals are important because they kind of connect you to where you live. They connect you to your home. So every time I do any kind of work regarding my home, regarding even when I travel, I always bring one crystal that is from my home because it brings that energy in with me. So, and this is something that it doesn't have to be pretty, but it has to be something that calls out to you. Now, there's two ways of working with crystals. I'm going to teach you first. I'm going to tell you about the kind of the witchcraft way that we do it. And then I'm going to talk a very little bit about the shamanic way, which I'm kind of still in the process of learning. So the witchcraft way, witches, we channel energy and we channel magic. That is one of the things that we do. And that energy comes from Mother Earth. It comes from alternate realms. It comes from the elements. It comes from many, many different things. So the reason why crystals are so important in witchcraft is because it is through the formation of these crystals that certain kinds of energies from our planet have been deposited into that crystal. And this is a process, obviously, that takes millions and millions of years. And once that energy's there, it's kind of like a little energy battery, and we can tap into it to use it for whatever it is that we need. So in order for you to use it in that way, what do you need to know? You need to know how that crystal was formed. What are the processes that led to the forming of that crystal? And sorry, my sage is kind of going a little crazy here. So that's going to kind of give you an idea, and it's going to tell you what that crystal is going to do for you. So for example, if you look at it and you say that crystal was created by a hydrothermal process, that already is telling you hydro means water. You've got some water element there. Thermal means heat. So you've got some fire element there. So depending on what it is that you're trying to do, you can look for one of those two things, and that energy is in this crystal, and you can pull that energy from that crystal for your project and for whatever it is that you need. Now, how do you find out these processes? The best way to find out, Wikipedia. I mean, you can go and look. I tend to search a lot of geology websites because I like kind of diving in deep into the geological processes. But just for everyday use, you really don't need to dive deep into that. If you are interested in that, you can private message me, and I'll be more than happy to send you a list of links that I generally use from the geology area, and then you can use those as well. But so the important thing is looking at how the crystal came to be, and how that crystal was formed. All the energy that this crystal is ever going to have is already deposited into this crystal through that process. And this is why a lot of times I struggle when people come in and they say, how do I charge my crystals? There is nothing you can do to charge your crystals. People say, I'll put them in the moonlight, do this and do that. That crystal, that was energy deposited through massive planetary forces over millions of years, that this crystal was made during that time. Putting it out in the moonlight or in the sunlight for 24 hours, 48 hours, even a month is not going to do anything to that crystal because the earth already did its job. So our job, one of the things that it can do for us is you can take this crystal and you can use the energy that's already in it for whatever it is that you're looking to do. The second way that we look at that is because in witchcraft, you know that there are different, the reason why colors are meaningful for us is because different colors travel on different energetic wavelengths. So the red color is different than the blue color is different than all of that. So you're going to look at a crystal, and whatever color that crystal has, that whatever energy is in there, when that you extract that, color of the crystal is going to kind of act like a prism. So you're going to pull that energy wave and that energy length from that crystal. So let's say you have a crystal that was created through a hydrothermal process. So water that we talked about, element of water, element of fire, and now you have the green. So when you pull the energy out of that crystal, you're pulling out the green wavelength of that fire and water energy. So this is kind of a way that you can start incorporating some of that into your crystal, into your work. Another way that in shamanism, they call crystals the ancient ones, which is extremely appropriate because they've been around forever and ever and ever. They probably hold an immense amount of knowledge into this crystal because they were present for all the different processes that happened within our planet. So in shamanism, these crystals are very respected for what they can teach us. So you can, if you want to work with the spirit of that crystal, you can bring that crystal in and you can ask it, what do you want to teach me? And each crystal is going to want to teach you something different. When you're called to a crystal, you look at something and you go, oh my God, I must have that. And it goes beyond the, oh, it's so pretty and I must have it because it's pretty, something that maybe you feel really connected to. There's going to be one or two reasons. Either that crystal has an energy in it that represents something that you are in desperate need of in your life at that moment, and that's why you're feeling called to it. Or that crystal's spirit has something that it needs to teach you, and that's why you're feeling called to it. So there's different ways that you can do it. So if you have a book and you're going to look up the meanings, that's all fine and dandy. But the best way for you to know what it is that you're going to need and how the crystal is going to work with you is to take a crystal that you feel particularly called to and then ask that crystal, what are you going to do for me? You can use the energy of that crystal, and it's you never exhaust it. This is energy that was deposited over 1 million years. So if you were to use this crystal for 1 million years, at the end of that 1 million years, you may have exhausted the energy that's in there that was deposited, but it's just using for every day and for witchcraft and for things like that. You are not going to, lose the energy within that crystal. So those are a couple of different things. A lot of times there's many crystals that do the same thing. And so why is that important? Because just like when you run into people in the world that you jive with and some people that you don't, you're going to meet some crystals that you're going to go, wow, that really makes me feel good when I hold it. Or you're going to run into a crystal that says, ooh, God, I don't want to touch that again. So that's going to be based on what your energy, your personal energy that you have, when it encounters the energy of that crystal, there's going to be a different result than there would be for somebody else encountering that. So this is one of the reasons why I feel that it's very important for you first to select your own crystals, to touch them and feel them and look at them and see what that calls to you, how that calls to you. And then second, it's important to work with each crystal individually and give it time and find out, what is that crystal here to teach me? What does it do? And it may be there to teach you something that maybe has nothing to do with what the book says that crystal does. So for example, this crystal right here, right, that I've been holding in my hand, this is an ocean jasper. As you can see, it's green and it's white. And like all jaspers, actually it's a misnomer because ocean jasper is a type of chalcedony. But it has got a kind of a gentle protective energy about it. The green talks about growth and abundance. That is the wavelength that it's got. There's a lot going on into this crystal. So when you look at it, you're like, these are the energies that I can tap into to pull out of this crystal. Ocean jasper normally is created around water. There's a lot of water energy going on here. But what can what is this crystal going to do? So as I worked with this crystal and as I bring this crystal in for me, what this crystal does is it helps me to solve problems. When I'm sitting at a point where I'm like, oh God, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know what's going to happen. Should I do this? Should I do that? When I do readings for myself, this little guy is always there with me because it helps me to process information and it helps me to think through different situations. For somebody else, this crystal may be a fantastic protection stone. It may be what they use to protect against, jealous neighbors or, envy and negative and toxic people and all of that. But for me, even though that may be what the traditional meaning is, my relationship with this crystal is very different than what the traditional meaning is. So this is why I always recommend taking the book and throwing it out and looking at what energy was deposited into that crystal through which process, and then what energy, what is the spirit of that crystal telling you. And then you're going to think about other things too. So for example, crystals that are, metamorphic crystals, which means they were created through a change process, a process of metamorphosis. So what happens, what do those crystals do? They help us with change, because that's what the energy that was deposited in them. Sometimes if they're, depending on which type of metamorphism it had, you can have energy that is bringing things together, pushing things apart, energy that is creating bands due to pressure being formed, which means sorting out information when you're under pressure. There are crystals that are formed through erosion. That's going to be one different kind of another energy. There's crystals that are formed through magma, through exploding magma, and then you've got magma that cools very, very fast, and then you've got magma that cools very, very slowly. This is going to generate two different types of crystals that are going to have two different purposes. So all of those things tend to be important when you start working with crystals. You will tend to be drawn to crystals that will be providing something that you need. When we do gem shows and we have all of our crystals out on the table, it's very easy to tell when people start approaching us with the first crystal that they go to, they look at it and they go, let's say for a honey calcite, then they'll be like, you're having trouble communicating, or you're feeling stuck, your thought patterns, maybe you're an artist or something like that. You can't seem to work through the things that you don't work through. And people look at me and go, oh my God, how do you know that? I don't know that. You know that. Your energy knows that. And your energy instinctively is going to look for, what is that thing that I need right now that's going to help me to be more whole and more complete. So that is a very, very short 10 or 12 minute video on how to work with crystals and the things that crystals can do for you. So I encourage you to take one of your favorite crystals and work with it for 7 days. Every day, sit down with it, go into a meditative state, try to speak to the spirit of that crystal, try to feel the energy that comes out of that crystal, and then see if you feel about it, how you feel about it at the end of that process. Have you learned anything new? Have you discovered what it is that crystal is there to do for you? So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope that this gives different ways for you to practice. And have a good day. Bye.